So I know that this is a very difficult thing to admit. It's probably going to be contentious. Um, but I think the fundamental flaw that we have in science, and why there's a lot of contention right now in terms of validity and reliability of science that exists, is believing that there is a single truth in this world, that you simply just need to have a perfect enough relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable and specify all of the control variables and moderators and all these kind of variables that are impacting conditional variables that are impacting what you're doing. And then if you had all of those things, then you would have the truth. That would be clear what that truth is. Now, I'm not talking about fraudulent activity, and there's plenty of that goes around, right? Like I wish that human beings wouldn't do things like that, but we do, right? Like we're humans, and we do humanly things. We're very much, we lie, cheat, and steal all the time. Um, and what I want to emphasize, what I want to talk about is um, the fact that many things in this world often don't have a single answer. They have many different answers, and all of them are equally fine, equally, um, truthful. They all add up to telling a story about the world. Now, I want you to sort of think about even very simple things in your life, right? That like something like a leaf, like a changing leaf, and you can look at it, and as a scientist that studies chemistry, you might think about the chemistry that's changing in the color of the leaf that's causing that, and that's a right story. But then you also might look at it as a naturalist, or you might look at that and sort of recognize how it fits in with the ecology of the area and how other animals might or other things might blend with that. Now, you might look at it as an artist and look at that particular beautiful leaf and realize that it's incredibly beautiful. You might look at it from an accounting perspective and realize that there is a cost associated with the death of that leaf. You look at it from all these different angles and you realize that there's not really one answer that is right. There's not one answer that you would say that is better than that one. They're all equally fine and they explain the situation completely fine. There's a plurality of truths that exist. And all of those truths are perfectly beautiful in of what they actually are. And I think we forget about that often. We think that there is this one truth in this world, and then we get um, you know, embrazened, I guess is the word. We get angry that people are violating this particular truth, and we don't recognize that there is just fundamentally many truths, and everybody is quite right with how they view the world. And you might be thinking, I'm thinking of a situation right now, right? Like, um, well, you might be thinking, well, how is that actually the case, right? Like surely that once you get educated, that you might understand the world better and you might have right answers, right? So you might have, a 5-year-old son or daughter, and they look at the world and they say, Dad, that leaf looks like a man, right? Or that leaf looks like a boat. And you can discredit it and you can say, well, no, that is a leaf. And this is what it's actually doing. This is the functionality that it's serving, but it doesn't preclude or it doesn't erase the fact that your kiddo looked at it and thought of a man or a boat. And when they saw that reaction, when they felt that, that is how they viewed the world. That is what it meant to be in their particular world. And discrediting it, or saying it's wrong or incorrect, I think is not useful for anybody. I think understanding that this is a yes and world, right? That it's a both world. That you can say, absolutely, that's an incredibly important thing to point out, and it's such a beautiful thing. How do you get there? Why do you actually think that? I think viewing it in a way of curiosity, viewing it in a way that there's not really rights and wrongs, um, I think that you'll get a sense of that there is a lot of amazing things that happen, and even within, um, even when that there is a definitive right and wrong, right? You have a jury, and like a real jury, you go to court, and somebody finds you guilty for doing, a crime. It doesn't that crime is true, right? Like it did happen, and often it could be heinous, but then you have to think about how is it that people actually got to that moment. What are the issues that we have to solve? It's not necessarily, the issues are not necessarily that the crime happened, but it's how did that actually get to the point where it did happen, and look at all of the different impacts and what happened, and we know, by solving the sort of holistically and coming at it from many different angles, right? So even if somebody does have a thought like that, like a heinous, awful thought, that there's support, or that we catch people, or that there is resources and all these kind of things. All of that stuff matters, and we know it matters because you just have to look at long run statistics, um, where we have these interventions, where we look at the world around us and we see that most societies that do these things, and they treat all of these different problems that are happening and all of these different issues, that they do fare better, and that there is good, strong quantitative evidence that shows that the world is getting safer, barring some recent events with, um, not so nice recent events with wars and things like that. But up until this point, we know that there is improvements that are happening across the board in most societies. Um, I just want to stress that having a right answer, sort of finding that right answer, I'm less of a fan of today than I ever have been. And the reason is that there's so much that goes on in the world that's complicated, that we don't understand, that there's many different perspectives that are all equally good. Um, I think we should start there. I think we should start with the the idea that, at heart, I think there's value to understanding different ways of looking at the world. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.